Hey everybody, what's going on? I've got a special episode for you guys this week. I had the opportunity to sit down with illustrator Jason Lenox, and we had the opportunity to talk about a great many things. But most importantly, we talked about his book, Lords of the Cosmos. Issues 1 and 2 are currently out, and he is working on issue number 3. But it's a pretty good book. I read both the first issues, and, well, he and I talk about it. So we talk about that. We talked about our love of childhood cartoons, movies, and all kinds of really cool stuff. It was a really good conversation. And he's a really neat guy. You guys should really check him out. And you can find all of his social media and his website in the description box below. So without further ado, here you go. All right, sweet. Let's get this party started.
Let's do it.
All right. So, interviewing Jason Lenox. Is that how you say your last name?
You can call me anything you want as long as you don't call me late for dinner. Now, Lennox is fine, my friend.
Yes, late for dinner. The old. All right. So tell me about yourself, a little about yourself. What is it that you do? You're an illustrator.
That's correct, Walker. I've been drawing since I've been a wee little lad, and for the last, let me think now, it's 2019, so for the last 8 years, I've been working as much as I can as a freelancer and self-publishing comic books and being out at comic book conventions and uh, making my art available to the public to buy. So I guess at some point that makes you a professional if people give you money for what you make. So that's what I've been up to since about 2011.
That sounds like the definition of a professional to me. Um. So tell me. I found you working on this book, Lords of the Cosmos.
hmm
So tell me a little bit about Lords of the Cosmos.
So Lords of the Cosmos was a project that I started with my two friends Dennis Fallon and Jason Palmatier around 2014, and we wanted to do a Masters of the Universe style genre comic book and do some world building. So we looked at some things that we liked, and between the three of us, we're all of that age where we grew up watching cartoons on Saturday morning, late 70s, early 80s, and we liked things like Filmation's Flash Gordon. We liked Masters of the Universe, Thunder the Barbarian, and we looked at those collectively as a genre, and we dubbed it amongst ourselves science fiction barbarians. And we wanted to make our own. And so we worked for a good long while making up a world, designing characters, rules, and then we just started to flesh out a story. And we started to realize we had built a gigantic sandbox with a lot of stereotypes and tropes that were right from that genre. And that's where it got its start. And to this point, we've published two full issues of Lords of the Cosmos, and as we speak, we are working on issue 3. So that is Lords of the Cosmos in a big, broad stroke.
Good deal. I definitely got that Masters of the Universe He-Man type thing. It really felt like I was reading somebody's version of He-Man, only really without He-Man.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it definitely resonated with me, especially after I finished reading the first issue and uh, I saw the back page where you talked about watching Saturday morning cartoons and things like that. That's how I grew up as well. So I was like, yeah, no wonder this book resonated with me so easily. It took me back to those Saturday mornings of watching cartoons, especially He-Man, Thundercats.
Sure, and a lot of those shows and storytelling, and the reason it's a genre is you can identify, the big bad. So if you take the old Filmation Flash Gordon, you have Ming the Merciless. He-Man, you have Skeletor. Centurions, you had Doc Terror. Uh, And we designed Umex with gigantic shoulder pads, his action attack 3 tentacle arm,
Mm-hmm.
his angry half robot face, and yeah. So I mean, you can identify him as the main bad, and of course he has his female villain that's like his somewhat love interest. In this case, that's Obsidia, and yeah. So you can identify the characters by their, again, I'll call them a trope, but the idea was to not make them the same, obviously.
Right.
But again, if you're familiar with that genre, which obviously Walker you are, you're like, okay, this is a comfortable room. This is a familiar place for me to be in, and that was the whole point, was to build through that exercise to put you in that place, but not do the same thing. I mean, I look at it as, if you enjoyed all the spaghetti westerns with Clint Eastwood from the like the 70s and 60s, you'd love Unforgiven. You feel
Definitely.
it's the man with no name, but it's not the same story, but you can appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love the fact that it was in black and white. There's something that's, I don't know, over the last several years, probably, well, easily over the last decade, that's kind of resonated with me about reading stories that are in black and white and not so much color. It just makes it feel a little more story esque, and I'm not so worried about how beautiful the artwork is and, oh, look at all these awesome colors. And I love looking at the drawing and how it just tells the story the way it is. And I think I really like that about your Lords of the Cosmos.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's one of those things that I'm a big fan of heavy metal, the classic magazine that was originally from France and came through National Lampoon in 1977. And that was a book that embraced black and white artwork at that time. And obviously, if you look at comic books, when they reprinted Akira from black and white to color in the United States through Marvel Comics, that was the first comic book that had computer color,
Yeah.
and that was a huge quantum leap forward in comic book coloring for the average reader. Um, Coloring has gone even further since then, and while I appreciate amazing colors in comics, sometimes it can be a little distracting, and I think there's a certain beauty in black and white, which is kind of like going back to just playing an acoustic guitar. So, um, you know, I think it looks fresh. It's bold. We were lucky enough to have some really other talented artists work with us on the project on issue 1 and 2. And we're going to have some of those folks and some new folks coming back for issue 3. And it's fun seeing artists that you like working black and white. So it's exciting.
That's awesome. So speaking of issue 3, is that going to be going through Kickstarter as well?
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be going through Kickstarter, and I've I believe that'll be my 10th Kickstarter. My 10th comic on Kickstarter will be Lords of the Cosmos 3. So yeah, we're definitely going to put it on there, and it's a great way to let the fans help us pay for some of the bills to make the book and to help them get some really awesome stuff at the same time. So I embraced Kickstarter early on, and it's been good, good to help finance projects, and at the same time, I think it's a lot of fun for people that like what you make because it makes what you're doing accessible, um, and they become part of the process. We had 6 backers from issue 2 will be in issue 3 as characters. So
Nice.
we have a story about one of the heroes in a prior conflict with the disciples of Umex in a Black Hawk Down type scenario with fantasy characters. And some of our backers asked to be villains in that scenario, and some of them asked to be heroes. So that's going to be an exciting part of issue 3.
Nice. I like that kind of reward. I've done plenty of comic book backings on Kickstarter and other things on Kickstarter, and I've done 3 Kickstarters for comic books that have drawn me into a scene. One I'm hoping will be out fairly soon, Black Suit of Death. I got drawn into a scene with, I think, 10 other people where we're just all getting our heads lopped off all at once, and it's
Nice.
just this giant scene of heads flying everywhere. Um, and the other two, I'm hoping uh, will get started soon. It's one of those uh, you, back from previous issue to get into the next issue. So it's like I'm really crossing my fingers, hoping those get started soon. And I think that's for me. That's kind of like a dream come true. I never knew I really had. It's like my face in a comic book.
Well, a good salesman will help you realize there was a need that you didn't even know you had, and you need to pay for it. So obviously, these
They,
folks all did a good job.
yep, and I paid for it. That's for that's for darn sure. I paid for it.
But here's the thing that I like about Kickstarter, and I'm 43, full disclosure, and um, when I was a kid, buying comics to me was getting the Marvel books. Like you bought, you know, Marvel made like 14 books a month,
Mm-hmm.
and they might have been 75 cents when I was a kid. So you could pretty much buy them all, and it was not a big deal. And that was pretty much it. And independent books were very few and far between, um, much less someone saying, I'm making a book. Like, I'm going to make a book. And you know me, so I'm going to make it. And so comics, very similar to TV, were very limited, where it's like, well, there's Spider-Man, Hulk, Captain America, there's DC. I didn't read DC as a kid. Uh, and that was it. And, now it's the complete opposite, where there literally are thousands of comics being made every month.
Mm-hmm.
From huge, huge, huge books to people just saying I'm making, just a very few things or a web comic. And by no means am I knocking web comics. Those things can be ridiculously hard and painful to make. But there's so much going on, and you don't have to be a superstar to make a book. You can make a book, and if your audience is 50 people and you can craft the book with their support, you can make a book.
Yeah.
If you're DC and you can sell 200,000 copies of, you know, Batman, whatever, okay, it's all equally relevant to some level. Um, with Kickstarters, you can see guys that are well-known pros that might raise $50,000. Someone, such as myself, our last book raised like, Lords of the Cosmos 2 raised like 5 grand. Um, cool. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like your level of reputation, uh, popularity, and scope will determine what you can get.
Right.
And so it's very cool that you can do things where it's like, hey, Walker wants to be in a book. We'll put him in a book for a price, and it gives you a level of interaction that you didn't have, when we were younger. That it was just like, well, here's a couple of books that come out, and that's it. Me personally, I kind of enjoy the more democratized comic book world than the older one that was in a pre-internet, high tech printing for the masses era. So it's just different, and I enjoy it. I think it's cool that you got to do that with the book because you liked it and you got to be part of it in a level you wouldn't have in the past. That's cool.
Yeah. So, any time frame of when issue 3 might end up on Kickstarter?
I'm going to shoot to have it on there by the end of the summer. Typically, what I like to do is I like to have my books about 90% done before I put them on there, because I don't want to lead people on or have massive delays in putting product in their hand. So at this point, Lords of the Cosmos 3 is about half done. Um, Most of it's penciled, most of it's written. We have a big chunk that needs design for the back characters. The story they're going to be in needs written. It's basically a rough outline now with my friend D.W. Kahn, and then I have to design the characters, and then my friend David Newbold's going to draw that story for us. That's the largest uncompleted part. I've been working on the cover art the last 2 weekends, and about 80% of the main story I have penciled now. It's done. So
Cool.
it is a work in progress, but I'd call it about 50% at this point, maybe 40, something around that nature. But yeah, the goal would be to have it on Kickstarter live, ready to go, probably by August. That's the plan.
Nice. Nice. I know that, yeah, for a lot of guys on Kickstarter that I've seen and backed, they're, they're doing it themselves and they don't have, they can't do the art or they need somebody to do the penciling for the lettering and they need another person to do this and so they have to get that funding and then they have to send it off, get it back and and I like using Kickstarter. Delays happen, things
Mm.
happen. It's an imperfect world, and I see people get upset all the time about delays and we spent money on this, we should be getting product, and it's like just like it, it's okay. Like you're gonna get it, you know, and the fact that you want to make sure that you've got the majority of your product done before it's ready to go to Kickstarter, and use the Kickstarter for all that additional funding. That's that definitely shows a level of commitment.
Well, Kickstarter's been around now long enough that you can start to see good and bad trends. And one thing that's hurt Kickstarter and crowdfunding, and I'll only speak for the comic book world because I don't. I mean, there's board games, there's dice,
Mm-hmm.
there's tech. I don't know much about that. I don't follow, but there have been some comic book projects that have raised some money, and books have never come out, like for years. Um, and you got creators on the run, hiding, where it's like, well, stop bothering me. And when you take someone's money, I believe you have to take that seriously. They're supporting you.
Yeah.
So part of it is if there is a delay, that you're proactively communicating, hey, we have a problem with the printer. It's going to take 3 weeks to get something fixed. I'm letting you know that.
Yeah.
Um, and not, I'll hide for 4 months and nothing will happen. And people start saying, where are you? I gave you $50. You know, when will I get it? And to your point, there's give and take. Um, but again, how well planned is your Kickstarter? How many have you done? Do you understand how it works? What I don't want to do is put out a Kickstarter and say, "Whoa, we better get started on this now," and then it takes 18 months to get it rolling because people are going to get a little sour. Now, maybe you wouldn't, but some people would.
Yeah.
I prefer to plan it out really well, hit it hard, get the book funded, and then be like, we're pretty much ready to roll. We on the last book we had a date of like November for everyone to get the rewards. Everyone got them by September, so we were about 2 months early. But again, I built a realistic schedule to say this is where we're at. These are all the things that need to be done. This is how much time it's going to take, and I've done it, so I have a good feeling for pretty much everything. Like my friend Dave Sharp, who does lettering for Green Lantern, letters Lords of the Cosmos for me. And I know what Dave charges me to do the work. It's already built into the budget. I know how long he takes. He and I communicate on the project as it gets to him. So I might tell him 6 weeks out, hey, we'll have it to you in a month to 6 weeks. Great. I'll start to clear some time in my schedule. Here's the thing, I can't letter. Um, I don't pretend to. So I make sure that Dave's part of the project from day one. He's aware that he's going to be doing it. We know what he needs to be paid, and you have to build it all in. So we know we need X amount of money to pay Dave to do a great job to letter for us. So
Right.
it isn't some big surprise saying, "Wow, how much is that going to cost? We didn't cover it. We can't do the book."
Yeah.
People don't want to hear that. They just want to know, "Hey, I have a well lettered book." That's all they care about. But again, did you make a budget? Did you figure out what you can do? And then to start saying, okay, if this costs X amount of dollars, am I popular enough to get the money? Because another thing that's funny on Kickstarter, you'll see, not as much anymore, is that people will just say, hey, I'm John Doe and I want $30,000 to make a book that I just made up. And they will get no funding at all
Yeah.
because no one knows who they haven't earned it. And you'll see these people that are professionals that have a reputation, and they can go out and get 40, 50, $60,000, but they've earned that. They've done thousands of pages of sequential work. They've done hundreds or thousands of conventions and appearances. They've done stuff in the industry for decades. They've met 30,000 fans over the years face to face. They've earned the right to say, I'd like $50,000 to do this project. They've earned it, and they'll do it, and you earn your way up. The first Kickstarter I did uh, was for a short story that I had drawn. It raised $1,000 to help cover some cost and publish it. Okay, cool. I earned that much out the gate, $1,000. You know, and over the years it's grown to five, and that's from interacting with fans, going to conventions, doing things like this podcast, being online. I'll tell people when they say, "What's it like?" I'm like, making your own comics is like running for public office. Vote
Yeah.
for me. I'm the prothonotary in your town, hopefully. And you're just telling people, check out my book. I want you to vote for me, buy a copy.
Yeah, most definitely. You have to be out there campaigning for the whole thing, and you have to put in the time and the work for it. And it's it. I can definitely tell that when people are really committed to it, they really put in the time to it, and they devote everything to it, and it shows in their work. It definitely shows in your work.
I appreciate that. And for the record, people that are self-publishing comics are people that probably love comics more than anybody else because it's actually, if you wanted to go nuts and bolts, it's probably the least profitable, hardest work that you'll do. You
Yeah,
could make more money just drawing fan art of, fill in the blank most popular character this month. And if you go to comic book conventions, you'll see people that are just like, hey, um, who's popular? Killmonger and Black Panther. Well, I have a Killmonger print and a Black Panther print, right? And they'll sell it last spring because that was a big deal like last spring.
yeah,
And then whatever's popular, what's popular this year? Well, it's Ant-Man 2 or Deadpool or they'll just basically grind out whatever's popular. And look, to their credit, they're going to make a nickel. Um, and they won't put a whole lot of work into it to be blunt. Um, to go out and say I made up characters and I have my own story and there's no massive media company backing it, buy my book. You got to have some passion and some stones to go out and do that. Because people will beat you. Well, I don't know what that is, and $5 for a book. Oh man, do you have a picture of Boba Fett?
yeah,
Deadpool. And you're like, no, I have my book. Oh, all right. Well, I'm gonna go buy that My Little Pony print next to you.
yeah. And
And look, go ahead, Walker. I'm sorry.
and I mean, you said it. I mean, before I started this podcast, before I started doing it, uh, hardcore. I'd walk around at conventions and I'd see, the guys selling their books out of their own pocket, out of their own dime, paying the money for the booths.
Sure.
$400 to $800 for a booth to get, their book out there, and nobody, everybody was walking by the booth and they'd pick up the book and they go, oh, okay, and they set it back down and they'd walk off and like never come back, and it just kind of like, I don't want to say I felt bad for them, but at the same time it was like I just like I wanted to do something to help that person like get get out there, and it's like, like I want to be able to pull that person off and be like, dude, come here, buy this guy's book. Okay, it is freaking hilarious, it is freaking amazing, the art is awesome, buy this freaking book. And like I've told my wife several times, it's like, doing these kickstarters, it's like I really feel like if I had the money, I would start a publishing company, and it would be like, bring me your book, bring me your stuff, let's get it out there, let's put it out there, and let's make your dream happy. Let's make your dream happen for you. You know, it's sucks I don't have that
Yeah.
kind of money.
Uh, I compare it to music. I mean, if you think about people like me, we're like small bands, like music bands. And if you're a little band and there's taverns or clubs near you, and you're like, look, I'm going to come out and play Kiss, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Molly Crew every week. They'll say, great, come out and play, Sweet Child of Mine, Back in Black, Rock and Roll All Night, Party Every Day. And they'll throw you a good nickel. You know what I mean? They'll throw you a couple bucks, and everyone will cheer because everyone's like, "Oh man, I love Sweet Child of Mine,
Yeah,
love it, right? I love AC, I love Back in Black, it's great." Or if you're like, "Hey, I have a band and we have our own music, it's original stuff." You don't have decades of radio play from a pre-internet era. You don't have a built-in fan base. These old records that sold 20 million copies. That you're like, "Hey, look, I'll play Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue." Everyone knows it. Uh, to go out and play your own music, you got to have some balls.
yeah,
Um, because people, what's that? I don't know it. So again, at a convention, the guy that's like, well, I have Darth Vader, Deadpool, again, fill in the blank. That's easy. I mean, that's like setting the game on the easiest level. And hey, look, I have a little bit of fan art too. So lest someone say, you are a hypocrite, sir, I do have some. I have less and less all the time, and I'm trying to phase it out slowly over time, and or have super obscure fan art. Uh, but it's you do get a crutch when you have that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and when you want to go totally original, uh, it's tough. And I will give a shout out to, and I'm going to probably destroy his name, but he's a very nice guy. I met him once, Jamal Eigel or Igel. Um, and Jamal had written a post online about a year and a half ago where he said, I'm not going to sell any fan art. I'm done. I'm just going to promote my book. And shame on me, I can't remember his book. It was really nice. It was kind of a female superhero book. So again, shame on me. I don't remember the name of it. But he was like, I really want to promote my original creation and all my stuff, and I know it's going to cost me money, but I'm just going to promote my own stuff. Zero fan art. I've reached the point I don't want to do it, and I can probably get by not doing it. And to me, I tip of the cap to that guy because I'm like, that guy's an artist. He's running. You know what he's selling? Jamal. That's it. No more Darth Vader. No more Transformers. No more Groot, right? No more Black Panther. He's just, I've got my book. That's it. And other things he had created on his own. And, I tip my cap to that guy because I was like, this guy believes in himself. Truly does. And I do see more people, not a lot, but I do see more people that really want to be artists doing that, where they're trying to get away from the fan art just to say, I want to have my own stories or my own creations, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll die with them. And I have a lot of respect for those guys, but I get what's going on. To most people, it probably looks all the same, and they'll just go to what they know.
Right. All right. So, tell me what you feel was your biggest accomplishment coming out of 2018.
My biggest accomplishment of 2018 was getting that book printed and out the door. Every time you do one of those books, like Lords of the Cosmos 2, it's like a military campaign. And the day that you ship the last thing out in the mail, it's like you tap out and cry uncle, and you're just wow, because it is a massive undertaking. Because not only you have the art, but in my role on that book as like the editor in chief, you're reviewing everything from spelling to backers' names to my address was wrong, I didn't get my book, to I want this on a sketch cover, to we have to make sure the stories are consistent for what's going to be in future issues. You get embroiled in so many things that aren't drawing, um, that it's massive. I mean, it is a massive spider web of work. So that was my biggest accomplishment of the year art wise. I did a lot of other neat stuff, small projects for clients and stuff for myself that I just make to sell. But that was my biggest single accomplishment. That was because it was just so big, and it was just so the fundraising, the shipping, the editing, the editorial work, the writing, because I got involved with writing a story with Dave Kahn for Obsidia, and that was a huge scripting undertaking to say now you're gonna get involved with writing directly, and you're gonna have other people draw your characters, and now you're gonna be writer, and you're gonna make sure that the art matches what you wanted to see, but you're not gonna draw it. And to go from drawing to writing, that was a big change too.
Okay. So, uh, speaking of some of your other work, you were telling me that you had worked with fashion designer Virgil Abloh earlier this year.
Yeah, no, I was contacted by Virgil's team in 2017 about licensing some older art that I had done for some clothing for Off-White, his fashion label, and clothing with my art was put out through Off-White in March of 2018, and I hadn't actually talked with Virgil, and I posted it on Twitter because it was on their store, and I just thanked him and the label. And Virgil reached out to me personally and was like, "I want to do more things with you." So I do have some art in the 2019 spring summer collection that I just saw a runway model wearing a jacket that I designed art on in their video that they put on their website a while ago for next year, or for 2019. And then right now I'm working on a couple things with Virgil that haven't come out yet, so it's exciting. He's very personable and very very cool to deal with. But yeah, so I kind of have a toe in Virgil's fashion world, which is interesting. Um, the stuff he asks for isn't the things that I typically make, but um, it's Virgil, so whatever he asks me to make, I make for him. So it's that, and that's it's just it's one of those things that I to be honest, the art that they picked up on that I had done originally, I'd made in 1992 when I was in high school,
Wow.
and I had a thing on my website called remember when or something like that, and they found that I guess doing a web scrape, and they liked it. They said we want this on some clothes, and I had talked to some friends about it, and I said, this stuff is out there working for you decades after you've completed it, and you don't even think about it. And that was a very chance coincidence, but it just shows why you have to be out there letting people know you exist.
Definitely.
So yeah, no, Virgil is like I said, he's delightful to deal with. He's very friendly. We just mostly chat through text messages, and they say he's just a really nice guy. And we have one thing we're working on now that I'll keep under wraps, but when it comes out, I'll send you a note about it. You can check it out. But like I said, he's just been a treat to work with. Just very pleasant, very polite, very nice. Just a fun guy.
Nice. I mean, and how many comic book artists can say, yeah, no, yeah, that model's wearing that. I designed that. Yeah, that's mine. So,
Yeah, no, the wild thing about Virgil, and this was a really strange thing, is that so we were chatting and collaborating on a couple smaller things last spring, and while we were doing that, he was named the Time Magazine's top 100 most influential people in the world. Uh, and then he was also named to be the head of Louis Vuitton Men's Global. And I was just kind of like, I had a weird moment where I was like, do you belong here? I don't know if you ever heard of that, where
yeah.
my wife, I'll tease my wife a bit. She said, I don't want to deflate your bubble, but why is he working with you? And I said, I said, I get it because there's so many talented artists out in the world that when you look at your own work, all you see is a million flaws. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, I'm the same
And
way.
and you look out and you see other guys and girls making art, and all you see is the awesome. And you do, well, at least me with my experience with Virgil is I did have a moment where I was just like, yeah, why me? Because he's a very big name, and he could probably get anyone to work for him. And then you are kind of like, yeah, I mean, why did he pick me? But then you kind of get over it and just say, you know what, I'm going to take the breaks that are dealt to me, and you know what, whatever he saw in me, I got to keep doing a good job. And that's all you can really do. You can't get hung up on it because you'd freak yourself out.
Yeah, you end up psyching yourself out and damaging your self esteem, and then all of a sudden your work suffers, and then you're
Sure.
just like, oh, remember when?
Well, and here's the thing: if someone likes you, they must have seen something in you. So just go back to what you were doing and don't even think about it because they must have liked something they saw in you in the first place. So just do what you're doing. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if a good break goes your way and someone notices you and likes you, roll with it.
Yeah,
And again, to me, I always preach like be friendly to everyone, put your stuff out there, talk to people, et cetera, et cetera. And I will preach it. Just smile, friendly face, talk to people, follow up, be polite, etc. And I'll tell people you never know who's watching. Well, apparently Virgil was watching me, so I mean,
yeah.
again, take that for what it's worth. But no, it's been exciting, and I don't really know, hey, where's that road going to go? But part of the fun in doing stuff with someone like him is that I don't really need to know. He asked me to do stuff, I do it. So, um, hey, I'm just there to help. If he needs art, I'll do it for him. So it's exciting. But I will keep you posted on some of the stuff we are up to as it becomes public.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, thank you. That I would love to be able to bring you back in later and talk about some of your new stuff.
Yeah, no, and here's the thing. Virgil's such a, this will sound coy, but he's such a chill guy. He's never like, well, don't talk about this. But out of courtesy, I was to assume that there has to be some level of secret. So
Sure.
I don't talk about the stuff that I do for him until like anyone can see it.
Yeah.
So the girl wearing a jacket with a huge bird on it, again, you could go see that in their website. So I'll talk about that because it's public. Or I did, the art was on pants, but everything else I keep to myself. But as some of the stuff becomes public, I'll definitely let you know because obviously you know who he is and have some interest in him. Uh, and yeah, there's some cool stories that I'll be happy to share once it's public. But I will share one funny story. Is I live in rural Pennsylvania, and we're not a real high fashion area. And with Off White and Virgil, there's not a whole lot of recognition. Like, who's that? It's kind of beyond us. Where I work, we hired a young man in his early 20s, a recent college grad, and we were talking at work, and he mentioned that he collected sneakers, and I said, "Do you know Off White?" And like it was like someone put a cattle prod in his rear, and he was what? Like, cause no one, when I guess no one knows he's talking about. And I said, "Do you know Virgil?" And like it was like he started going into overdrive. He's like, "How do you know that? How do you know that?"
Yeah,
And I,
you're old. Who are you?
yeah, and I was like, "I do work with him," and he went collectively crazy because I started showing him some stuff on my phone, and he just went ballistic. It was very much like a horror film where he was like scannering or something,
He didn't know what to
and
do.
he didn't know what to do. And he just said, "This is one of the craziest things." He goes, "I just can't." He goes, "You just seem like such an average dude in your 40s," and he goes, "I'm I would have never anticipated these words coming out of your mouth." He's like, "I don't even know what to say," and he was just like, "Wow." And it was funny because being in a rural area, it was so funny to get that kind of like, okay, someone actually knows what this is, and his reaction was just like dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Whereas most people are like, I don't even know what you're talking about, so they just kind of like they're like, I don't need. What does that mean? They don't know. So yeah, um, here's another thing I have going on that is public. I have a really big piece of art that I did last year. It was the biggest piece of art that I did last year. I did a 34 by 34 inch. I'm sorry, I did this in late 2017. It was a 34 by 34 Satanic Communion, like church art. And that is going to be in a book called Devil's Reign 4 that is published by Hal Studios in Florida, which is a really cool kind of tattoo burlesque type place owned by a gentleman named Andy Howe. And they do a book with the Church of Satan, apparently every year. And it's like tattoo art, demonic, evil, satanic art. And this was right up their alley, and I submitted it. And it's going to be in a big limited edition coffee table print book.
Wow.
And I'd never had any art accepted to be in a collection like that. So I was really excited to be like, wow, I'm going to have my art in this crazy coffee table book. And their theme for this fourth volume was witches. So lots of witchcraft related art. So I kind of felt a little bit of the fine arts feel being in literally a big coffee table book. So it's a big picture that I did with satanic stained glass and naked women and like kind of soldier types with gas masks and werewolf women and undead nuns. And it's like if you went to church in hell, and it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. So I did that. That was a fun project to do, and it's cool to get it to like a little bit wider recognition through that art collection book.
It is cool. Well, let's get into some fun questions, huh?
Hit me up, brother. Hit me
All
up.
right. So, um, I always like to ask creators these few questions, and so tell me about a dream team you would like to work on a project with, dead or alive.
Living or dead.
Stumped you.
Living or okay. Well, I'll tell you who I'd pick. My favorite comic book artist all time, um, Juan Jimenez. Um, he was from Spain and I believe moved to South America. And I got to know him through Heavy Metal Magazine. They would reprint his graphic novel length stories. Uh, Probably best known for a book called Metabarons, which is amazing. And straight up, I think he's the best comic book artist ever. Maybe not as well known in the States, but he is, to me, he's just unreal. whether he's drawing pretty girls or whether he's drawing airplanes. He would be Dream Team guy number 1, and man, Dream Team number 2 would be Yukito Kishiro, the guy that drew Battle Angel Alita.
Ugh.
Um, he's another one. He's a super freak, man. I mean, he is just when he draws action. I don't know. I've ever seen anyone draw action like that guy. He's just out of sight.
Yeah,
I've been
it's amazing. That's one of the books that I'm going to be end up picking back up here pretty soon. Now that the movie is getting ready to come out here pretty soon, finally.
You know, it's crazy. I've been reading Battle Angel comics since 1992. I just picked up the newest one that came out last month. Uh, he's doing new ones where it's like set as Elite as a little kid on Mars.
Yeah.
Uh, so I literally been reading that book now for, by God, 18, 26 years I've been reading Battle Angel, and he just keeps knocking it out. And I'd say the third guy, if I had to pick a third guy for a dream team, Otomo for Akira. He's another one. I mean, Akira, I mean, how did he do that? He drew it and wrote the whole thing. It's like 3,000 pages. I mean, it's like a trunk.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about the epitome of, comic books or manga, I mean, it's just, I mean, you can't really, you can't read manga and not know Akira. And
Sadly, I do 2 local animation conventions in Pennsylvania, one in Lancaster and one in Altoona. And I talk to a lot of younger fans, and I'll just ask them about it. What's Akira?
like, see that, oh, that bothers me. And like, I mean, I guess it really is kind of a generational thing because I know, like, for my daughter, she's kind of starting to get into the manga thing a little bit. Not perfectly okay with it as long as she's reading stuff that's age appropriate because
Sure.
manga's not like comic books. it's real it's
No,
it's real easy to pick up a manga that's like, oh, this looks really interesting, and you open it up and the first page is like, that's not age appropriate. So, but yeah, it's like,
so on that dream team, I might carry their pencils for them or get them tea or coffee. I mean, so it's a dream team where I would be like some slug on the bench. But if I could put a dream team of creators together, it would be those 3. And Kishiro and Otomo, they can write too, so they're your writers and your artists and writers. But if you're not familiar with Juan Jimenez, I'll send you some links later to check out some of his stuff. I mean, he's just
um
sick talent.
I think I've seen some of his stuff. Initially, when you said Jimenez, I was like, oh, George Jimenez. But no, that's no. And I was
Right.
like, I think I've seen some of his stuff. Uh,
It's
and
it's good. I mean, and here's the weird connection. There's a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune about the movie that they didn't make of Dune in the 70s that Alexander Jodorowsky was doing with Mobius as his storyboard artist and H.R. Giger doing design.
mhm.
And that aborted project became the comic book Meta Barons, and then he brought in Juan to draw it. So there's this crazy DNA in that project from the writing standpoint to like having this. I mean, Mobius did design for Dune, and then Jimenez was like his number 2 guy.
Hmm.
Now, again, I'm sure you could say, well, Mobius is better than him. I mean, I think Jimenez is better, but I say that with air quotes because they're both ridiculously awesome.
Yeah.
I just like Jimenez a hair more because I just like his style a little bit different. But I mean, they're all sick, crazy, good. But I picked Jimenez because he's still alive. Mobius is passed, so I wouldn't pick him for my dream team.
Right.
That's a good question, though. Honorable mention I would give to Sergio Aragonés because I love all the stuff for years in Mad Magazine, and I was a loyal reader of Gru for many, many years, probably like 150 issues of Gru through different publishers, and I always thought Sergio had so much talent being a cartoonist and more of a minimalist, and but then so much detail. And when I say minimal, like simple characters, but like hundreds of them on a page.
Yeah.
Um, So we'll put Sergio as the fourth member of my dream team, and again, I'll sharpen his pencils, perhaps get him some ink for his pen.
To stand in his presence and bask.
Yeah. I just stand there and I would just be embarrassed to try to put stuff down near those guys because they're all so ridiculously good. That's a good question. What's the next question? This is exciting.
All right. What would be your dream character to illustrate?
Dream character to illustrate. Damn. Um. Hmm. I would probably say. Hmm. It's a great question. Damn, I got to think for a minute here. Um.
These are the kind of questions nobody ever really thinks about till somebody asks. It's like,
Well, you know what? I'm gonna say Conan, and I actually had a pinup in a Dark Horse Conan book of Conan. I Yeah, because I always wanted to draw. I have long boxes of Conan that are ridiculous. I probably have about 500 Conan books, and Tim Truman, um, who's a comic book for life type guy. Do you know Tim Truman? The name sound familiar?
name sounds familiar.
He drew the comic book Scout. He's drawn a million comic books for Marvel and DC. He's a comic book lifer, and he is a working professional. But probably more than that, he's just an outstanding human being. He's a very nice man, and he lives sort of near me. And I was at Free Comic Book Day in like 2013 at the comic book store in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Very nice store owned by a man named Joe Miller. Hello, Joe. And Tim was there, super nice, and Tim was doing a lot of stuff with Dark Horse with Conan at the time, and we were talking. I was like, "Man, if you know anyone, can you let me do a pinup for Conan?" And he was like, "If you make something cool, I'll get it in the book." And man, I hand inked this big Conan Tower of the Elephant piece with the spider and the gems and Conan, and I was like, "Is this good enough?" And he was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You definitely did a great job." And he talked to the editors, and they put it in the book as a pinup in like King Conan 5 from Dark Horse in like 2014, I think it was.
Nice.
Yeah, and I thought that was cool. So I guess I did because I love Conan. I have Conan books and Conan statues and Conan collectibles. I've always thought Conan was dope, and so it was pretty cool to have art in Conan. So yeah, I guess I did it.
Hey, when you realize a dream.
Hey, I had Conan art and a Conan licensed book, so there, bam.
So, uh, what what comic books are you reading now?
Hmm. What comic books am I reading now? Uh, I am slowly grinding through Attack on Titan,
Oh,
which
good stuff.
I'm on volume 18. Uh, as I said before, Battle Angel, the Mars books. I just read volume 5. Uh, what else am I reading? Uh, I'm slowly grinding through some books from France called Requiem, which is a painted comic book about vampires living in hell. And I find it utterly fascinating. The art's ridiculous. It's all like oil paintings. And those are the books that I'm really reading right now. Oh, and I've been reading a lot of the Judge Dredd reprints from 2000 or the 2080. They put the big Judge Dredd, like here's every Judge Dredd from 1986 out.
Oh,
But I've been
wow.
reading those Maniac. You know, Judge Dredd is all over the place. Some of them are really good. Some of them are really bad, in
Yeah.
my opinion. It's very varied quality, but I just enjoy those 2000 AD books, and these collections they're putting out are just very nice to read. So that's kind of my eclectic. What am I reading right now? Pile. As far as new stuff from mainstream publishers, not so much. Um, yeah, not really. My one friend had told me that man, there's a really good Green Lantern book out. If I come across a copy, I'll read it. But I mean, like I said, to me, those are the ones I'm reading right now. And with having small kids and everything else, sometimes it's hard to sit and just read tons of comics. But really enjoying Attack on Titan. I was worried that it was going to go in a really stupid direction like that TV show Lost, but so far I'm not disappointed.
uh, yeah, it definitely does not go in a stupid direction. Um, trying to think, Volume 18.
They,
Geez,
they have
I mean, I
they have just the father of Historia just turns into a Titan that tries to like eat the wall, and they shove TNT in his mouth and like blow his head off. And they've just taken over the government of the city. That's about where they're at. And then they build a kind of a Titan guillotine, like crushed Titans that walk into a like narrow pit.
yeah, they kind of fixed the wall esque and made it a like kind of like a bottleneck. Yeah, okay.
That's where I'm at. And I read about one volume a month, and then whenever I finish reading one, I just buy the next one. And I think I'm like 10 behind. But
Yeah.
and to me, the other thing that I've seen recently that just blew my mind from a storytelling standpoint was I just watched the movie last weekend, Hereditary, and I know it's not a comic book, but holy smokes, that's an awesome piece of storytelling, special effects, and just scaring the living shit out of you. Have you seen Hereditary? It's amazing.
Mm-mm.
You have?
I haven't seen it.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything else about it. Go check it out. It
Yeah.
will scare the out of you. It is a that kicked my ass last week, and I was just like, whoa. And that was recommended to me by my friend Dave Sharp, who works for DC. He said, you got to check this out. You'll love it. It's really cool. And I did, and it is amazing. And the writer, the actors, the special effects, the ending, even the music was really good. So, not a comic book, but a big tip of the cap to Hereditary. Check it out. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'll add that to my. They came out last year.
Yes, it's pretty recent.
Okay, I'll have to
Yeah.
add that to my list. You know, it's interesting because my wife and I watch so many TV shows because we get engrossed into all of these TV shows and just like
Sure.
can't stop watching them. And it now that everything was on hiatus because of the holidays, and so it was like I was able to catch up on a lot of my movie watching.
Yeah.
So it was like now that everything's back on, it's like, am I going to have time to go to watch movies that are coming or have come out? Because there's
So, and again, this will probably strike a chord with you. So, when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do every fall was ABC used to show the Hobbit cartoon like once a year,
oh, I
right?
love the Hobbit cartoon.
The old Rankin Bass one, right?
Oh yeah,
I remember, again, in a pre-internet era, I remember as a kid getting TV Guide and reading it every week, looking for stuff to watch, right?
mm-hmm.
My mom would get it every week at the store with the groceries. Here's TV Guide. And I remember every year you'd be like, oh my goodness, it's Hobbit, Saturday, 8 o'clock on ABC.
Yep.
And like when it was on, it started at 8 and it was over at 9:30 or whatever. And like if you had to go to the bathroom, you might miss the show. And it was like, oh my goodness, I got a plan. And when it was over, it was like, that's it. And my mom had gotten me a Hobbit cassette set where it was like 5 cassettes to listen to the audio of the cartoon, and there was like a picture book you could kind of like flip through with like stills from the cartoon.
Right. I remember
And
that.
if what's that?
I remember that.
And if you wanted to like relive the Hobbit cartoon, it was like, well, I'll have to imagine these pictures moving because all I got is like 50 still frames from the film with cassette tapes. And you really grew to appreciate like, oh my goodness, I got to see The Hobbit this Saturday. And like if you missed it, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about that compared to today, where I could literally talk to you on Skype and watch that cartoon now on my phone.
Right. It's all there for you.
Right. And it's almost like, one, I don't think we appreciate how cool this stuff is. And we've gone from extreme scarcity to poor Walker saying, how's he going to watch his 8,000 movies and TV?
Yeah.
Where it's like completely reversed. Like now
Yeah.
it's like no scarcity.
Yeah,
It's like we have everything.
it's like you would have to schedule time to sit down and watch this movie that came on every once in a while, and now it's like I have to schedule time to do things other than, make sure I get caught up on The Flash or The Good Doctor, and it's like just like I became my parents, looking at my kid and go, you have no idea how good you have it. You have no idea the kind of things that I had to go through when I was a kid to be able to watch the things that I wanted to watch.
Hey man, Hobbit. I mean, like you paid for it to come on once a year. I remember as a kid, I loved the Flash Gordon movie from with Sam Jones,
Yeah.
and I remember I saw it twice in the theaters in 1980. I was 6, 5, something like that, and it just blew my mind. I thought it was just so gorgeous and so cool. And I remember I bought a copy of Starlog because it had photographs, and I remember cutting out just the pictures of the movie and taping them to sheets of paper just to look at them
Yeah.
because it was like you saw it and it was like, well, that's it. No home video. I mean, it was like, wow, I was so glad. It was like saying you saw Haley's Comet. Like, hey, remember Walker? We saw the comet 10 years ago, and you're like, yeah. Can we see it again? No.
No.
You may not live that long. Like, you better remember it. Take a picture.
Yeah.
And it's changed. And the other thing, again, going back to what I said about Marvel as a kid, for good or bad, I'm not going to judge it, but our experiences were more collective when we were younger. We all read Spider-Man because that was it. Whereas now I'm like, well, I'm reading this comic book that's about 10 years old, and this comic book from Japan, and this comic book, and blah 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 blah. And you could be like, well, I'm reading the current, X-Men. Oh, okay, I'm not reading that at all. I don't, TV shows. Like I'm watching one TV show right now. I'm watching Dogs of Berlin on Netflix. I love it. No one I know is watching it, but I love it. And I'm watching it on my pace, on my schedule. It's a German TV show financed by Netflix. It's great.
Yeah.
Um,
And the
I,
fact that we have things like that nowadays, it's like you get things from just everywhere.
Whereas in the 70s, when MASH was on TV, they all say it was the highest rated show. When MASH had its finale, like 80 million people watched that TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? They all watched it whenever, Sunday at 8, whenever it was on. And like the whole country could have gone to work the next day. I mean, I'm like, we all watched MASH together.
Yep.
Whereas now I'm like, well, I'm watching Dogs of Berlin. You're like, oh, I'm watching Gotham. I'm like, oh, I've never even watched it. Would you like? Oh, well, I'm watching, Supernatural. I'm like, oh, well, I'm watching South Park, and
Yeah.
we DVR'd them. So I'm watching them 3 months after they premiered. So I mean, our collective experiences now are gone. Um, the only things I can think of that are collective still are the Super Bowl and Game of Thrones,
Oh, definitely Game of Thrones.
because that people still camp out for when the episodes come out and they go nuts for them in
Yeah.
the Super Bowl. Everything else is like, what are you watching, Walker? Well, I'm watching, an old film I found on Netflix. I'm like, oh, I'm watching this on Hulu. My wife's watching Handmaid's Tale. Okay, like that's what she's watching right now.
Yeah. And my wife does that. My wife works from home, and so a lot of the time when she's doing work and sending emails and working on paperwork and things like that, she's got whatever going on in the background. She binge watches.
Sure.
And she kind of watches it, she kind of doesn't. She's got it going on in the background, and when I'm sitting reading my comic books, I usually have some kind of TV show playing on in the background. it's
Mm-hmm.
just it's I've always been one of those people who, whenever I'm doing something, if I'm not moving or talking in any sort of way, I have to have something going on in the background. Otherwise, my mind races to the point where I lose whatever it is I'm looking at. And
Sure.
so, but yeah, I've been watching Stargate SG-1 because it's on Amazon Prime right now. So I'm like, oh man, Stargate SG-1. I loved that show. So I've been
I mean, again, okay. I mean, you know what I mean? That's to me, that's random, but that's what you're doing.
yeah
I'm like, I'm watching Dogs of Berlin. It's a German show from last December. Okay, that's what I'm doing. So I mean, we don't have that. We all watch MASH tonight at 7, and we all watch it, and we all talk about it. You
yeah.
know,
It's like nowadays when when Elseworlds premiered for the CW. You know, it was like everybody was watching it, but then there was that occasional guy that was like, wait, I DVR'd it because I didn't get to catch it last night because I was off doing something else. Don't tell me, don't spoil anything for me. I'll watch it when I get home.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, back when I was a kid, it was like when you know, we had a Betamax player, but
Mm.
you know, we didn't have spare tapes laying around where we could go ask Dad, "Hey, Dad, can you record this for me?" Because it would be like, because he would look at the bookcase and go, "I don't have any spare tape. I'm sorry."
Well, another thing that's occurred is that if you think about movies, 80s, 70s, movies were kind of the more highbrow entertainment, and TV was kind of more like stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, it seems to me to have gone completely in reverse, where like TV can be these huge highbrow narrative stories, and movies have kind of become more the look at the explosions, boom, boom, boom. Look, naked girls, or half naked girls, explosions, cars,
Mm-hmm.
and very little plot. Whereas TV has become very highbrow. I mean, again, it's like it did a complete pole shift. So I mean, movies have become very lowbrow, at least in my estimation. Like the bigger, like the independent films will always be independent films, but like the bigger budget films, very simplistic. Very special effects. Just look at this, pow.
Yeah, look at how gorgeous this movie is. Yeah.
Yeah, like here's a question for you. Like you look at Avatar, and like that film made $1 billion, but like no one talks about it. No one's like because it's just it looked neat,
Yeah.
and people are like, wow, it's so neat. But you're out obviously in fandom. It has like no love. There's no fans. There's no fandom. There's no. Do you see anything for that film? It's the weirdest thing, right?
I mean, whenever I see somebody, every so often you'll see, you know, an article post about, you know, because James Cameron's working on Avatar 2, and there'll be a
Yeah.
post that somebody made, hey, so and so was seen in some kind of Avatar looking costume, or, you know, so and so was seen on a set that we think was Avatar, and you'll see just all these people talking about it, talking about it, talking about it, and then 2 days later it's like, where did that post go?
Yeah, I mean, and look, by no means do I have a finger on every person in America, but like you go to conventions and you just kind of see the rank and file. What are the kids wearing? What are the
Mm-hmm.
you know cut you know, and if you're at a booth like me, you're selling stuff, you just see people stream by like you're like a rock in the river. And like in 7 years, I've seen Avatar stuff like 3 times,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm getting at. Where it made a ton of money, and it was a lot of like, look at this, wow, but like I don't think there was anything there. It was like, wow, look at that, like an explosion. Like we set off a firecracker in the backyard. It's like, whoa. But
Yeah.
like, what
And
was it?
I don't even think that I don't even think there was much of a toy line or any any sort of like marketing. I mean, there was. I'm sure there were, you know, posters that got thrown out there, and
The font,
but
dude, the font they used was papyrus. Who would even want to wear that? It's just, ugh. I'm gonna be a font snob for a minute. But papyrus, get out. If you're listening to this podcast and you like papyrus, turn this off.
I'm
I
gonna
will.
I'm gonna go back later and I'm gonna pull that audio clip and I'm gonna use it for something at some point. I swear to God.
I will. If you like papyrus, I will judge you, and I will judge you harshly. Like, but it was $1 billion film, and I'm like, the font was papyrus. It was just odd, right? I mean, it is papyrus, isn't it? Isn't that what it was?
I honestly have no idea.
Oh, and it's just. But again, it's just such a strange time we live in that you can watch these high-end TV shows. For like the last 4 months, I rewatched Breaking Bad again, just in passing.
Uh huh.
It's like the greatest TV show ever. And I'm just like rewatching it again. I'm like, and I'm like, this is. And then you look at crime shows from like the 70s and 80s, and I love Miami Vice. I still do, and it's still a pretty good show. But boy, is it limited. Um,
Very.
no, yeah, and for what it was, it's very good. But if you put that next to Breaking Bad, it's like a kid on training wheels. It's just you're just like, wow, this is nothing.
Yeah. It's and I see that so many times. It's like I'll be scrolling through something and I'll be like, oh my God, I used to watch that as a kid, and I'll go and I'll try to watch it, and it's like, can't watch
Mm.
this. It doesn't hold up. I need to
Okay,
find something else.
I'm going to throw something out since we're talking pop culture before we get back to your questions for me. So, one of my favorite cartoons as a kid was Star Blazers. Loved it. Right.
Don't
My
think I know
wife,
that one.
Battleship in Outer Space. Right. Big time Japan, 70s property. Um, my wife bought me the box set about 6 years ago. Watched it. It didn't hold up. I was like, I really remember this being good, and now that I'm watching it as an adult, I'm like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
Through some miracle of money, budget, planning, whatever, about 3 years ago, Studio IG and some major money did a complete redo of the show, 26 episodes, and it's better than the original. And I was just like, whoa. And it's so good, and you reminded me about it because I remember the show being awesome as a kid. Rewatched the original, not so good. The new show is like the show that you remember because you're like, this is great, this is so good, and they actually got it right. I know with some science fiction properties, and obviously Star Wars seems to be in an endless quagmire of not living up to what fans want, and like we don't need to have that debate, but
No.
there's definitely a debate that it's good, it's not good. We like Last Jedi, we didn't like it, whatever. Uh, this Star Blazers redo, I literally tip my cap, and I'm like, I'm a super critical old school fan, and I'm like, you knocked it out of the park. Everything that was good on the show, you kept. You added stuff that enhanced the show that wasn't on the original, and you, whatever it was, they got it right. I actually sent a tweet to one of the English voice actors, and I just said, I just think you killed it, and thanks. And the guy was like, dude, so cool, but whatever. But Star Blazers 2099 is a new show, so it just came out on Blu-ray from Funimation like 2 months ago. So I've been enjoying watching that for the last 2 months, and it's amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, they got it right. The redo got it right, so and it doesn't happen really often. So if you like Star Blazers, check out Star Blazers Yamato 2199. But I hear you, Walker. It's crazy. You go back and look at some of this stuff, but again, we're in a weird era where TV is amazing. Game of Thrones, Breaking Bad. If you watch Better Call Saul, it's amazing. It's so good. It's like, how is this even a TV show? It's amazing.
I know, and when you look at shows that have just like Supernatural, 10 seasons, 11 seasons, 12 seasons. I think they've got contract all the way out to season 15,
Mm.
and you're like, I know that because I still watch it, and I had left the show for a while because I got bored with it and kind of caught up with it up to last year's season, and I see people talking about it all the time. It's like, how is this show still on? I got bored with it after season 3, and I'm like, I kind of feel you, but like if you come back and you watch, it's like you're not as bored as you were, and it's like. But yeah, you look at it and you're like, wow, this show's been around for 12, 13 seasons and stuff like that. And you've got shows like The Simpsons. We're on season 28, I think. It's like,
You know, it's crazy. I remember watching The Simpsons with my grandfather in like 1991,
yeah,
and my grandfather has since passed, and my older son is named after my grandfather, Blaine, and he's going to be 7 this year, and he has started watching The Simpsons a little bit on the side. I stopped watching it, and I'm just like, dude, this is just weirding me out,
yeah,
man. This show is like, will I outlive The Simpsons? I hope, but I don't
yeah,
know at this point, you know.
yeah. At this point, I mean, who knows? I mean, I figured they would have run out of material 10 years ago, but here they are, still going strong.
Yeah, pretty much. Walker, what's the next question, man? We got to get off this tangent.
Okay,
Next,
so I actually just one last question. What does 2019 hold for you? What are your goals for this year?
that's a great question. So, Lords of the Cosmos 3 is going to be a big project. Um, I've been working on a couple different art themes as time allows. So I've really started getting heavily into Animal Farm, the book, and Animal Farm becomes public domain next year. So I am working on a bunch of Animal Farm posters, and I might make an Animal Farm book. Maybe, I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
I have also been furiously working on a ton of satanic artwork, and I eventually may do a satanic coloring book. Um, and I've got a couple ideas for my satanic coloring book and my animal farm. Once Lords of the Cosmos gets where it needs to be, I'm going to go back to doing that stuff. So I kind of look to push both of those projects forward a little bit, as well as Lords of the Cosmos. And I might kickstart one of those before I do Lords of the Cosmos 4. I'm not sure. It'll just depend how it all breaks out. But at this point, I probably have 28 completed pieces for my satanic coloring book. So there's a tremendous amount of that that's already done in the can, and I sell that stuff as prints at shows.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do I want to do this year? That's a great question. I have some stuff with Virgil that's going to be exciting, which will remain under wraps. We'll talk about that when it comes out.
Sure.
Um, if I can get 4 of those things done, that's a lot.
That does sound like a lot. The year is young.
Well, and I love doing mythology art, so I'll probably try to do a couple mythology pieces. I have like 30 mythology posters, Norse, Egyptian, and Greek. I really want to do a big poster this year of Scylla and Charybdis, the monsters from the ocean and the Odyssey. So I really have this vision of drawing a trieme, which is like a Greek ship, trying to avoid both of them because I think it's just they're neat. The one's like a gigantic whirlpool, and the other one is like a multi-headed aquatic dragon. And there's some interesting art over the years of that scenario, and I want to try it. It's one of those things that interests me. It's an interesting piece of work to look at, and yeah. So if I can get those things done, that'll be great. That's a lot right there. If I could pull those off, and here's the thing: I got probably 12 conventions lined up for the year. Walker, where do you live at? What part of the world do you live in?
Houston, Texas.
Okay, you're pretty far away. We're actually going to have a show 30 miles from my house that's going to have like everyone from Supernatural at it this June. That's why I was thinking of you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's near my house, and I was laughing about it when you said that because like literally I think 4 or 5 people from Supernatural are going to be at this show.
Yeah, I know that there's a specific like supernatural convention that runs around that usually has the majority of the cast at it at any given time.
Mm.
They had one here in Houston a couple of years ago. That I think they ended up like turning people away. It was at a hotel, and they ended up turning people away because just thousands upon thousands of people were trying to pack into this hotel.
So here's another thing to shoot for 2019. I want to have every show I do, big or small, be great. And I really love shows. To me, they're like I used to go to church every week as a kid, hated it. And a lot of people say they like church because it gives them a communal experience. I get that. I get that communal experience from being at comic book shows. I just find them to be a very loving, fun, tight environment, and I love holding court at my artist alley tables, and they're just fun to be at. So I really have, whether they're one day or a whole weekend or whatever, I enjoy doing all those, and I've done them long enough now that every one I go to, there's always a great group of existing friends and fans and family at every show. But I'm always excited who will I meet at the shows this year. So I'm looking forward to just getting back out. My first show is going to be in 2 weeks. I'll do SetsuCon, which is the Penn State Animation Society's convention they have at the Altoona Convention Center, which is also about 30 miles away. So I'm excited to get back to my first show of the year in a couple of weeks. It'll be good. I have not been at a show since November. We take the winter off, basically. So. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that definitely sounds like you've got quite the year ahead of you.
Yeah, well, and with Lords of the Cosmos, it's zany because we have a sculptor that makes a toy for every issue. So his name's Eric Adi, and he's working on the newest toy for issue 3. So he's working on that. And then we have a ridiculously talented fan that if I put anything with a machine online, he builds a 3D sculpt. And so one of the characters in issue 3 that debuts is a flower that lives inside a robot body. And we put a couple sketches online of that character last week for the cover, and he literally built a 37 megabyte CGI 3D fully posable model of it for me.
Wow.
So when Lords of the Cosmos, and by the way, his name is Brent Freeman. He needs a shout out. He's a super, super talented guy. He's from West Virginia. He's super talented. I met him at a show. He's a fan. He always buys stuff from me. He's a wonderful human being, super talented. And he's more of a fan than we'll ever be because the amount of work this guy does is ridiculous and it's always amazing. Uh, but whenever I put a machine online from Lords of the Cosmos, he builds it. He freaking builds it. So as Lords of the Cosmos, kind of builds steam over the years, it's crazy the stuff like that happens where fan art. We had a guy buy a blank sketch cover and he drew our characters on it and just showed us the other week, and I was like, whoa, and having Brent build models of our characters in literally 3D, you can rotate them, zoom in, it's sick, it's crazy.
Nice.
So all these things will start to happen, and it's a production. So yeah, it'll be enough to fill my plate for the year. It'll be fun. What about you? What are your goals for the year?
My goals for the year, I just started this year with some giveaways that I'll be doing every month. I'll be giving away trade paperbacks every month to, well, whoever signs up and wins the contests.
Oh,
That was something I just started this year. I just got my website up and running, so I'm trying to get a regular blog post going of just, you know, nerdy news stuff,
yeah.
and trying to I had a goal that I was going to do it every single day, and it almost seems like I'm going to have to at least set the goal to at least 5 times a week. Getting a little inconsistent, but
Uh,
it'll get there. But
so
I'd like to be able to do more conventions myself. I normally
yeah,
only go to about 3 or 4 a year.
yeah. Well, here's another interesting phenomenon that I noticed when I started putting art back out publicly, in 2011, here or there. People were like, "Oh my God!" Like they just went nuts, and I didn't really earn it. I think it was just something different. And now I put out stuff. People are just like, whatever. And um, they become very used to it, and sometimes you can become numb to it, and the public can become numb to it, and it can be very easy to walk away because the first time you do it, you get this insane rush of like, oh my God, you made something,
Mm-hmm.
podcast, whatever. That will not sustain. And going back to what I said about guys that make comics, you really got to like doing this stuff. I had a person ask me, and it was a very honest question. They said, will you be mad if you don't become wildly rich and famous making art and comics and Lords of the Cosmos? And I said, well, if you're doing anything creative, okay, and that's your top goal, right, you're going to lose because it's probably not going to happen, right? Not to burst your bubble or my bubble, but it probably won't. So ask yourself this: if I just made comic books and did art for myself and a few friends, and there was no money involved, you just made it, right? Would you be happy? Now, if you can tell me, yeah, you know what? Drawing monsters and girls with swords, it's cool, man. It makes me happy. Do it, right? And if money and fame come of it, awesome. But don't do it because that's your goal. I mean, spoiler, I have a regular job. I work in commercial and industrial sales and heating and cooling. That's my full-time job, okay? Um, pays the bills. It's a fine job, good benefits, respected in the community. It's a job. If I could draw crazy stuff full time and support my family, I would. It's not there yet, and it may never be there, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it where it is now. And if it becomes big, great. But I never did it expecting that. I get a true, honest enjoyment out of making art. And I just enjoy looking at my own art. It gives me pleasure.
Right.
If more people like it and they give me money, that's a bonus, right? So you have to self-sustain because the public will love you and ignore you in ebbs and flows where it'll be strong, then it goes away. And like if you're expecting them to keep you going all the time, they won't. So you got to keep it going yourself. So,
Yeah.
really the question for you is you got to have a real passion for like doing this stuff. And if you do, you'll love doing it and you'll do it forever, you know? And you seem honest and sincere about enjoying it. And I've loved this conversation. So you'll probably do well with it. But yeah, don't try to make yourself do too much because you got to pace yourself.
Oh, most definitely. I've been my this solo podcast I've been doing for almost 2 years, two
It's
and a
good.
half years. And I mean, I've been in the podcasting community for a while. I helped produce some shows a while back, and
Yeah.
I was helping people with audio work and stuff like that a while back. Back before it was so simple and easy to do it yourself. You know,
Mm-hmm.
now it's just like anybody can do it. It's super easy. So it's like, well, um, but yeah, and like I never wanted to get into this to be famous or have thousands of followers and my YouTube channel blow up to the point where I could, make some extra income or stuff like that. There's a friend of mine. He just started a YouTube channel and he's trying to put up videos every day and he's trying to make extra money doing it. And I'm just like, hey, dude, that's awesome. I will support you on it. And I was like, but just understand that, dude, it might not happen. Like, you might make a couple of dollars a week, maybe, but like, dude, you need thousands upon thousands of followers to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I mean, set the goal, but understand that it's like, you might never get to that point. So it's like, but yeah, I do this because I love it. And a lot of the time, my opinion on a lot of things are pretty controversial. When, Batman v Superman and Justice League came out, I had some pretty harsh words, and a lot of people got upset. But you know what? That was my opinion, and I gave it.
Spoiler: they were wrong. They were really bad films. I was forced to go to Justice League with my son because he had to see it. He fell
Uh,
asleep in 6 minutes, and then I had to sit and watch that on-screen train wreck. And can I just say one thing real quick? You know what's
yeah.
bizarre to me? DC's live-action films, we can all agree, have been pretty bad. I mean, they're not much good. Their animated division,
Oh my god, so awesome.
home runs for the last 15 years, and everyone's like, "Man, we'll never get a good Justice League film." I'm like, I got 10 on my shelf.
Yeah, like I don't.
Like, oh,
It.
Man of Steel was so bad. Go watch Superman versus the Elite, the cartoon.
Oh,
It's awesome.
it was great. It was
All
absolutely
right.
awesome. I loved it.
So, so I'm just kind of like, well, shoot. Like, my wife just got me Death of Superman for Christmas on Blu-ray, the new cartoon. I can't wait
Yeah,
to watch. It'll be great.
yeah, it was good.
So,
I liked it. I can't wait for Reign of Superman to come out. I may actually go watch the double feature at the theater on
nice.
the
Oh, they're
four.
doing Reign of Super. I didn't even know that. Awesome.
Yeah, the 14th and 15th. There'll be theaters that are going to be showing the movies back to back. So
Wow.
I'll be
Didn't
like, I
know.
may actually go
Well,
do that. Like,
but here's the thing. So it's weird to me that like, yeah. But again, controversial opinions. It's not. Those films suck. Someone disagree. They're wrong.
yeah. I mean, I liked Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was the only thing that gave me chills. That's and
Yep.
that was and when I talked about Dawn of Justice, I said that the only time I had chills was when they were fighting Doomsday and Wonder Woman showed up. The music started. I got chills. That's it. The rest of the movie was just trash.
I don't even know if it was trash. I think it was like five films like cobbled together because it was like, was it
Thank you.
Dark Knight Returns? What was it? Was it Death of
Death of
Superman? Like,
Superman. What is this? Thank you.
and the other thing that made no sense to me, I'm gonna rip that film. That made no sense is that everyone likes Joker, right? And Joker's basically an anarchist.
Mm-hmm.
Heath Ledger did a great job being crazy man. I'll burn money. I'll just destroy stuff. Like he played crazy man.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. That's Joker. Lex Luthor is totally different. Like Lex Luthor is like next level evil monopoly man. Like Matt, like he tricks you. Like he's just a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And they turn
Lex
Lex
Luthor
Luthor,
into Joker.
and it's like,
He
well,
was.
yeah, I get it. We all like Joker, but it's like Lex Luthor. Like the Lex Luthor thing I remember that was so cool was on the animated series. when he got Shazam to fight Superman, and he put a thing that they thought was a bomb in a building, and then Superman like goes out of his way to like break the law to like quote unquote save everyone,
Yeah.
and it's just a boss. And Luther's got the TV there, and he's like, "You see, I've always told you this guy." And Luther just he uses his smarts,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, "Okay, that's Lex Luthor." Joker just blows stuff up. Joker burns the money to make or whatever. And it was like, well, we got Joker, Lex Luthor. That made no sense. Was it Dark Knight Returns? That didn't make any sense. Was it again? Was it the Apocalypse or not Apocalypse? Was it? Was it Death of like? It was just like there was five films kind of like churned together, and it was like, what am I? Is it Is it supposed to be jokey, funny? Is it like you didn't know?
Yeah. Now I haven't seen Aquaman yet. I hear good things, but I mean, when Aquaman comes out on HBO, I'll watch it because I have an HBO subscription. But like,
Well,
I'm sorry,
I,
DC's not getting any more of my money at the theater.
you have one small child, I have two, and it's weird because you hit this point where the most valuable thing we have is time.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my regular job. I have two kids. I have a wife. We have a house, yard stuff, fix the house, whatever. Um, and the free time that I have, most of it is put towards making stuff, right? Not consuming.
Mm-hmm.
So you become very, very slow on watching stuff. And I'll never forget when Guardians of the Galaxy 2 came out. My one friend that doesn't have kids, he was just like, "Man, it's great to see it." And I was like, "Dude, I just saw Guardians 1 like last week
Yeah.
on cable." And he was like, "What? How?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm like I catch this stuff like I'll probably catch Aquaman in about 2 years."
Yeah. Yeah.
I
We
haven't even seen
we
Wonder Woman.
we
And not that I'm like, I'm not seeing it, but I'm just kind of like, dude,
yeah.
it,
It's just
none of this stuff
it's a time
stands
thing.
out. Yeah, and none of it stands out as like must see. Like, and when I saw Guardians, I was like, I mean, people when Guardians 1 came out, I was like, oh my god, it's the greatest film ever. And then I saw it, well after the hype had died down, and I was like, it was a very, by the numbers science fiction film. It didn't really seem bad or good to me. I was just like, what was all the hype about? I mean, I really didn't get it. I was just like, this is an okay movie. And I wasn't like, wow. It wasn't like I just saw The Godfather 2 for the first time. I don't know. It was just odd. But I was so behind, I'm trying to catch up. Trying.
I know. We try to, if we really want to see a movie together, we try to go on a Sunday morning and make that effort to go see it. But I mean, like my daughter and I both love Star Wars, and when Solo came out, she kept bothering me again and again and again and again and again to go see it, and I just never had the time. And it left at the theater, and it came digital, and I was like, let's watch it. And all of a sudden, she was like, eh. I was like,
One of the last films I saw in the theater was Blade Runner 2049, and oof.
oh man, I wish I could have gotten to see that in the theater.
You know what? I walked out being like, okay, I don't want to see it again. I I I was underwhelmed. I was very disappointed. Spoiler, disappointed.
Yeah, it was visually stunning, but the story of itself, I was like, huh? And
Well, what I think hurt it now that we're riffing on films is that there's so much of a drive to throw in stuff we know that it was like, here's Harrison Ford, and it was just like, well, he just seemed to drag the whole thing down, and then the whole like he was the chosen one with that girl, and they had a magic baby. I was just like,
mm-hmm. Like,
eh.
come on now.
I mean, it just seems so shoehorned to like make the first film different. It's like, couldn't he just been some gumshoe cop that falls in love with a girl? Like, does
Yeah,
there really have to be this big? No, Walker's the chosen one. No, can't he just be a guy?
yeah. Can it just? Why does everything have to come full circle?
Yeah, can it? Like one of the greatest films, in my opinion. I'll throw another greatest film ever at you. I'm giving you homework.
Yeah.
To Live and Die in L.A. from 1984, written by the guy that wrote The French Connection, and it is one of the most amazingly written motion pictures, and it all comes down to just everyone's just a guy. And no spoilers. I would encourage you to check it out. Um, it just it's just regular guys doing regular stuff, and there's no again. It's just you. It's just like no, these guys are on an adventure because they're just regular guys.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. No and it worked because of that humble commonness of just two guys screwing up at work. That's cool. And I think Star Wars especially has just gotten battered by everyone being special. I don't. It's just a rabbit hole I don't even want to go down. But
Yeah.
yeah, but when they made Decker like special, I was like, he was just a gumshoe, and like the girl he met was just a pretty girl. Can they just meet and fall in love? Like, why did there have to be this? Well, no, Terrell made them special to have a baby. No, he didn't.
Yeah. Like, come on. We're grasping at
Like,
straws at this point.
like that didn't happen. It's like I get it. Like you want to have these old actors in because everyone's like Harrison Ford, but I'm like, well, I mean, are they really going to make another indie with him being like 80 years old?
Yeah. Yeah. I like, I don't know why. Like, why? Why can't he be dead? What's wrong with that?
Yeah, I don't know. It's that's bizarre to me. I don't know how a guy that's 80 years old is an action hero. I don't get it.
He definitely
But
can't move like he used to.
no, and it's just strange. But so you got some good goals for yourself. We'll wrap it back to you, man. You got some good goals for the year. I like it. I like what you're up to, man. Houston, are there good shows there? Do you like a lot of big Comic Cons there? And
We've got Comic Palooza that comes around every summer about the middle of May,
hmm
and that's our big one. They just started a new convention last year, Fandemic Tour. It's
hmm
from the one of the guys that used to operate Wizard World, I believe.
hmm
But he actually travels around. He opened up in San Diego
hmm
and did a con there, and then came here and did one here. And then I think he did. I think he might have did one more before the end of 2018, but I don't remember where. But yeah, he wants to kind of make it a convention that kind of moves around.
Interesting.
So yeah, yeah, I'm gonna see if I can drop your name over to everybody at Comic Palooza and see if I can uh, get them to get you down here for 2019.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'm going to be bluntly honest with you, is that one of the most humbling conversations you have to have with yourself is how important are you, right? Because everyone loves themselves to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to do a show like that. If they would bring me as a guest, I'd be the greatest, happiest guest ever, and I would do whatever they want. My only limit on shows like that is cost. Because if they were like, we're going to bring you, I would be there. But like for me just to do it, I would probably lose my ass. Just being honest.
Oh, definitely plane ride and getting all the stuff
Uh,
transported down here and
yeah,
table
it
and
would
yeah.
it would kick your ass because people say, Jason, you should totally do MegaCon. You'd love it. And I'm like, dude, I probably would love MegaCon, but it's so far away that you would just lose your ass. And like,
Mm-hmm.
what I try to do is stay within about 3 hours of where I live. You drive it. You can stay with friends, get an expensive hotel. I'm like, you go and you make some money, and like you walk out saying, "Hey, I had a good experience. I got more money here than when I came with." Um, but yeah, if a bigger out of state show is like, dude, we want to bring you in, I would do it in a heartbeat. So feel free to throw my name out. I would be totally game for it. Um, if they want to bring me out, I'll do panels. I will kiss every child. I will shake every hand. I will be super guest. I will talk comics. I will talk books, whatever it takes. So I hope that get me to Houston, man. I'm up for it.
Yeah, we've been working, and when I say we, there's a giant podcast group here in Houston, and we've been trying to get people in more positions at Comic Palooza to make things like that happen. Last year, we got after I'd say after about 4 years of me patronizing, we finally got Scotty Young to come down,
Mm.
and which, like, the first couple of times I mentioned it, I was like, you should really do it because he's never gonna come down here. I'm like why would like Scotty Young? Why would he come down here? Like, but I kept mentioning it again and 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 again. And again. I guess finally somebody was like, make him shut up and get Scotty Young down here.
Well, here's
Yeah,
the thing. Like, you know, plane tickets and transpo, give me a place to stay, and what hey, I'll do panels, I'll talk, get kiss babies and shake hands. I love doing shows, and I love being a very fun social guest artist. Um, and one thing about shows is they can get a little bit stale because if you watch them long enough, what you start to realize there's a DNA to your zip code.
mm-hmm.
And for example, Tim Truman lives in Lancaster, and like if you live in this neck of the woods, you'll see Tim Truman at a show because for Tim, he lives in Lancaster. I live at State College, so we tend to see each other at shows just because it's kind of in the same neck of the woods. Um, and like my friend Dave Sharp for DC, he lives in Harrisburg. Again, we all live in the same general within an hour of where hour and a half or whatever where we all live. You do shows long enough in this area, you start to see the same general people. So it is cool when you can get guys to like break the like, hey, I'm here from Chicago, and it's like, oh, wow. Um, we had a local show in State College, and Livio Ramondelli, who works for IDW, doing Transformers, he lives in LA. His parents live where I live. He came in to the show because we got him a plane ticket and he wanted to hang out with his folks.
Yeah,
And people are like, how did you get him to come in from LA? It's like, well, his parents live in our school district.
yeah. Like
But
it
it was a
was.
treat. Well, it was a treat for people locally because, like, holy crap, this guy's like a really big deal. And Livia is a super talented, he's super friendly, and don't tell him, but he's kind of a big deal. So for people here, it was a treat to see him because, like, dude lives in LA, you know. So if you're in Southern California, seeing Livia may not be as special because he lives there.
Mm-hmm.
Not it isn't special to see him anytime, but he's easier to see there than he is here. So people are like, "Oh my God, it's Livia." And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, we've been trying to get him to push more back toward getting the comic book creators down here, and we want them to be, we want Comic Palooza to be comic booky again. And for the last couple of years, they've been getting real celebrity focused, which they make the money. They bring in the people who want to see the celebrities and do the photo ops, and they make the money. We get it, but for people who've been coming to Comic Palooza since day one, like we come to Comic Palooza every year. It's like, well, last year we got Scotty Young and Mark Wade, and like that was amazing. And then everybody else was, like you said, exactly the same people that always show up.
well." And here's the thing, and again, I'll sell myself here for a minute. Is that I'm willing to work very cheap. Sometimes with bigger name creators or celebrities, they'll ask for all kinds of stuff. They'll say they want
Yeah.
large cash up front, they want big guarantees. um, where promoters can be out thousands and thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars to have someone come out. Um, for people like me, just pay to get me there. That's all I ask. Like again, if it's outside of my radius, like hey, give me a table, put me on a cheap ass flight with some farm animals, and get me a room. Maybe get me some food. And you know what? It can be basic. Like here's a cheese sandwich and water. Feed me so I don't die. I need so many calories a day.
Yeah.
I will work your show. So to me, as far as like bringing a guest, I'll give you a lot of bang for your buck because yes, I would cost some low level of money, but not like my God, we had to get a loan from the bank to get Jason here. No, get me some food at Five Guys and a bed with a clean bed and you know get me there and back. I'll work the heck out of the show.
Right. It's not like we're asking for, Jeff Johns to show up out of nowhere and be like, hey, everybody. And oh my God.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, if you really want to get into the nitty gritty, when you have to start paying a lot of money for people to be at shows, I always question, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Because the shows have become kind of a star in themselves, and it's the people may come and if you pay someone $30,000 to be at a show, do they generate $30,000 in new business? Like,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I don't, or maybe not. Maybe you'll make more money if you have someone like me that I'll energize the heck out of people, and I'm a fresh face, and I'll bring self-published books and talk about stuff, and you can say this guy off white, and I'll say, yeah, now $100 for me to sign anything. Ah,
Uh, yeah, I. Well, and when we had Scotty, he was signing. He'd sign anything you wanted for free. He just you slide it in front of him, he'd sign it. You want him to do a commission though, he's got a thing about if you want him to do a commission for you, you have to roll a pair of Dungeons and Dragon dice. You have to get doubles, and it's $200.
oh,
And yeah, and the money I get, he's got a thing about his stuff showing up on eBay and things like that. And I get it. He wants to be sure that he likes to have his work stay with the people he does the work for. That's the way he is. But he thinks it's funny to have people throw Dungeons and Dragon dice to roll doubles. It's like he just
but if it's doubled, is it free or do you pay more? I'm confused.
no. You have to roll doubles, and then he will do the commission, and it's $200. So if you roll
Well,
the dice and you get a 5 and a 9, bye. Try again next time.
I don't like that. It seems brutal.
And it is, and it's one of those things that's like it keeps his original sketches that he does so rare, but then he charges you the $200. Well, there's a pretty good chance that if you try to sell it online, you're not going to get $200 for it. So he does it to keep, I guess, to kind of keep hype for his original work that he's doing for you. I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's
I understand why he does it, but at the same time, it's like I looked at him and I rolled the dice and I got a 4 and a 3, and he just smiled, and I was just like, I love you, but I'm
Really.
gonna punch you in the face.
Here's the thing with artists. They're creatives, and they dance to their own beat. And
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. I found that over the years, I either really like creatives or I despise them with the passion of 1,000 burning suns. And it goes with the territory. Creative people can be crazy. Uh, Maybe they are all crazy. Um, and that sounds annoying to me, I, but whatever. That's his world, so he can run it the way he wants. I don't like it. I wouldn't do it. But again, maybe he's seen things that I've never seen that I would say, oh my God, now that I've been through that, Scotty, I would do that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's his business. That's how he runs stuff. I'm more of a, I don't know. I'm kind of more of a bizarre, you know, dark art. I have my comics, I have my satanic art, I have my weird fan art, which is a lot of like book art from dystopian books. A lot of my original stuff, which can be horror, fantasy, whatever. Um, I liken hanging out at my booth to kind of being in an independent metal band, uh, like show where it's like here's Jason talking about heavy metal. Every year I make a T-shirt based on classic heavy metal bands. So my T-shirts for this year are like typo negative shirts that say Jason Lenox art is killing me, like the old 2003 Life is Killing Me album.
Nice.
Um, that my booth has kind of a weird vibe. People either really dig it or they're like, this is stupid, and I'm just moving on. I'm okay with it. So that's my vibe. Um, Sometimes people just like to argue with me that know me because they're like, well, let's ask Jason about whatever will right now if people want to get me into a rage fit, it's like, what do you think of the new Battle Angel Alita movie? And I'm like, why did they make that girl's eyes too big?
Yeah. Why are her eyes so big? I said the same thing.
No, and I'm like, y'all spent $300 million, and fans like me are like, what have you done? Like no one on staff thought that was a horrible like so people that know me fans are just like, well, let's get Jason Anger. Let's ask him about that. Last year it was Ghost in the Shell with Scarlett Johansson. That was like instant rage fit for me. And I think a lot of people enjoy watching me just be like, okay, now I'm gonna lecture you about this, old man. lecture from my soapbox. So yeah, that's kind of my scene, and I like to do that stuff. Or people say, "Geez, Jason, what's this mean?" I'm like, "Well, here's a weird religious discussion about some art that I made that's scary, and let me tell you why it's bad. And here, I'll tell you why we use Latin or what the symbol means." So it's kind of like a weird college professor freak out Greek mythology, alternate religion, science fiction argument table with heavy metal sprinkled into it, or weird movies, and that's my vibe. Um, yeah,
Well, now that we're coming up in an hour and 45 minutes, see, I told you we would end up going over an hour.
we would go. Well,
Just,
personally, I like you because we could hate on Justice League together, and I want to meet the people that defended it because I would just be like, "You're wrong.
you
This is
know,
this."
this, it is what it is. But tell everybody where they can find you at.
So we'll do our obligatory socials. So my website's jasonlenox.com. That's kind of my online archive. My online store is Lenox Art Emporium at Etsy, which I've been working on now for about a year to grow that. Um, Instagram and Twitter at Lenox Artist, and I am on Facebook as Jason Lenox Illustrator. And if you're really feeling daring, friend me, and you can be my friend and participate in all of my rants and raves about horror film makeup and science fiction remakes and humorous memes. So if you're really feeling risky, friend me. But again, at Lenox Artist Instagram and on Twitter, and Lenox Art Emporium on Etsy, you can get Lords of the Cosmos paper copies on my Etsy store, or you can get them digitally on Comixology. But if you buy them from me on paper, I usually send some bonus prints or mini comics along as well. So
Cool.
always get stuff on Etsy. It's fun, and I'll autograph it for free with no dice rolls.
Another reason to stay physical, everybody. Digital stuff is
Yeah,
good, but the physical stuff is just better.
that's right.
So, all right. Well, it has been absolutely a blast talking to you, sir. And I hopefully you'll be able to work me in before the end of 2019 to kind of see where you're at.
Well, hopefully, the next time we talk, we can talk about all my super secret Virgil projects, and we will talk about the Kickstarter, because what I will hopefully do is coordinate doing interviews to come out during the Kickstarter so we can say, back this project.
Yes,
Um,
definitely. Awesome.
okay. Yes. So keep an eye on me. And like I said, you'll start to see Lords of the Cosmos pencils getting posted up as I knock some more stuff out. So it's going to be fun.
Cool deal. I'll keep an eye out for that stuff.
Excellent.
Well, thank you,
Walker,
sir.
thanks for having me, man. It was a blast. I look forward to being a regular on your show. And you are a wonderful host, and I really enjoyed this appearance. And again, thank you for your time. This is your space and time, and thanks for having me as a guest. And I look forward to hearing from your fans as well if they want to reach out and chat with me.
I sure hope so, because you're definitely a conversation starter.
Yeah, and you know what? I hope that you guys get me bring me as a guest to Houston. Damn it, Texas, get me down there. Bring me to your city and state. I want to come there. So
I
bring
will
me.
work on them. I will whittle them down.
We'll make time, man. I'll be there.
All right. Well, you have a good one, sir.
Thanks, Walker. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye bye.